I kicked my brother and nephew out of my house when my nephew hid my daughter's allergy medication during an attack. My brother, 42, and his 17-year-old son had been living with me for the past few months. He lost his job and apartment around the same time, and I let them stay because I thought that's what family does. I've always been the stable one in the family, so people often show up at my door when things go wrong. For context, my daughter, 14, has a severe peanut allergy. We've been through multiple hospital visits. We don't mess around with this. She carries her EpiPen everywhere, and her school, her friends, everyone around her knows how serious it is. I've drilled into her since she was little. Don't eat anything unless you're 100% sure it's safe. Always check labels, always carry your EpiPen. This is life or death, not something to take lightly. The incident happened last week. I made dinner at home, nothing with peanuts. I checked everything as always. My daughter ate some sauce, and I think it must have had traces of contamination because she started reacting fast, hives, swelling, her throat closing up. Anyone who's dealt with anaphylaxis knows how quickly it goes from manageable to terrifying. We went into emergency mode. She reached for her EpiPen like she's trained to do, but it wasn't in her backpack. I started searching everywhere while she gasped and cried. That's when my brother started yelling at his son. My nephew was standing there, smirking, hands in his hoodie pockets. My brother shouted at him to hand it over, and only then did he pull it out. He'd taken it earlier and was hiding it. I can't describe the rage I felt. My daughter could have died. She was seconds from collapsing, and he was standing there holding the one thing that could save her. I didn't even think. I snatched it from his hand, administered it to my daughter, and once she was stable enough, I exploded. I screamed at him, told him he could have killed her, and told my brother to get his son out of my sight. My nephew kept saying it was just a prank, but he looked scared when he realized how serious it was. My brother tried to calm me down, saying his son didn't know it was that bad and didn't mean harm. I told him that was nonsense. You don't hide someone's life-saving medication as a joke. That's not a prank. That's playing with someone's life. After the crisis passed and my daughter was resting, I packed their things and told them they were leaving. I didn't care that it was nighttime or that they had nowhere to go. My brother begged, saying they had no place to stay. I told him that wasn't my problem anymore. He raised his son, and his son nearly killed my daughter. That's a line you don't cross. I wasn't going to risk my daughter's life to be kind. So I kicked them out. They're staying God knows where now. My phone hasn't stopped ringing since. My brother's been telling people I threw family out on the street over a misunderstanding. A couple of relatives have called me cruel, saying I should have punished the kid without making him homeless. Others think I overreacted in the heat of the moment, but I keep replaying the scene in my head. My daughter clutching her throat while my nephew smirked and didn't hand over the EpiPen until his father forced him. If he hadn't given it up in time, we'd be planning a funeral. I don't feel bad about kicking them out, not one bit. I feel bad for my daughter, for the trauma she went through, and I feel bad for letting them stay in the first place. But the family's criticism is getting to me because they act like it was just a laugh, like I'm blowing it out of proportion. I don't know if people don't understand how serious allergies are or if they pretend not to so it fits their narrative. I keep hearing, he's just a kid, he didn't know what he was doing. But this kid is 17. He can drive. Does he not know what allergies are? He's not someone with developmental delays. He's just a spoiled brat whose actions could have had catastrophic consequences. Update 1. A while back, I posted about kicking my brother and nephew out after my nephew took my daughter's EpiPen during an allergic reaction and only returned it when his father yelled at him. They're still out, but the consequences have really started to hit, and it's been a mess. My brother keeps saying it wasn't a big deal, that my daughter only had hives, and that I overreacted and threw them out on the street at night. He's making it sound like I blew up over nothing. Meanwhile, my daughter was literally choking while her cousin held the one thing that could save her. I don't understand how he can twist that into a misunderstanding, but he's trying. He's not having much success, but he's trying. Meanwhile, my daughter's been a wreck since it happened. She checks and rechecks her EpiPen constantly, making sure it's in her backpack. The first day back at school, she barely touched her lunch. She asked me point blank if her cousin wanted her to die. She's 14, she shouldn't have to think like that. But after what happened, she's terrified. That's the part that angers me most. Not just the reaction itself, but how it's now living in her head. Then things got even worse. A cousin from another side of the family sent me screenshots from Snapchat. Turns out, my nephew had been bragging about what he did. He posted something like, "LOL, made it seem like she almost died because I stole her pen, weakling," with laughing emojis. His friends commented, egging him on, calling my daughter pathetic and saying things like, "survival of the fittest." I nearly threw up reading it. That wasn't a dumb teenager making a mistake. That was him thinking it was funny to put her on the brink of death. I sent those screenshots straight to my brother. He tried to downplay it again, saying, "Kids post stupid stuff for attention," and that he didn't mean it. I told him if his son thinks attention is worth my daughter's life, they have much bigger problems than being homeless. After that, he stopped responding. I also sent the screenshots to the family group chat, since everyone was saying I overreacted. Some went quiet after seeing the evidence. Others doubled down, saying, "He's just a dumb kid, don't ruin his life over a mistake." One relative even said I was heartless for sharing his private social media, as if the real issue was me exposing his bragging and not him gloating about nearly killing his cousin. At this point, I'm done arguing with anyone who makes excuses for him. I told them straight up, if you think a 17-year-old hiding life-saving medication during a reaction is just a mistake, don't bother contacting me again. My daughter's safety is non-negotiable. I don't care if they think I'm dramatic or cold or whatever. Let them take him in if they feel so bad for him. By the way, none of those defending him have done that. They all talk about how wrong I was to kick them out, but not a single one has opened their home to them. My daughter saw the screenshots too because they were already being shared at school. To me, the screenshots made it clear. This wasn't an oversight or not realizing how serious it was. He knew exactly what he was doing and thought it was funny. He put my daughter's life at risk and then bragged about it online. There's no coming back from that. I don't care if he's 17, I don't care if he's technically still a kid. He's old enough to know what an EpiPen does and why someone needs it. Old enough to drive, work, and understand the difference between life and death. He knew and he didn't care. So yes, my brother's furious with me for ruining his son's reputation by sharing the screenshots. He says I made things worse. I told him his son did that himself. If my brother thinks it's a big deal that I kicked them out at night, we'll see what he thinks when I press charges against his son. I'm sorry, but if he can't see how serious this is, maybe a police report will make him. Update 2. My brother's gone on the offensive. He's telling anyone who'll listen, literally anyone, that I abandoned a teenager on the street and chose my pride over family. He's on Facebook and family WhatsApp groups, completely twisting the story. According to him, my daughter had a mild reaction, and I exaggerated it just to have an excuse to kick him and his son out. That I didn't want them there anymore, so I told my daughter to make it seem worse than it was. His exact words were, she coached her daughter to exaggerate her allergy symptoms for pity. I don't even know how he can say that with a straight face when he was there watching her choke and swell up. The worst part is, he's even got some random people online worked up. I got a couple of emails at my job from strangers calling me heartless and saying I should be ashamed for kicking out a kid. Someone even tagged my company on Facebook. Luckily, my boss knows me well enough to pull me aside, and when I showed him the screenshots of my nephew bragging about hiding the EpiPen, he said, "Forget it, you're fine." But for a few days I was genuinely scared this mess could affect my job. And when I say mess, I don't mean the situation, I mean my brother. Meanwhile, my brother and nephew found a couch at another relative's place, but I heard that lasted less than 2 weeks before they got kicked out. From what I was told, my nephew was stealing money from wallets and my brother just played dumb. They burned that bridge fast. Now they're bouncing from place to place, apparently even staying at a motel at some point. That's not my problem. I gave them a roof when no one else did, and this is how they repaid me. What really makes my blood boil is that my nephew hasn't let it go. He started sending my daughter direct messages on Instagram, calling her weak and saying things like, "I bet you faked choking for attention." He sent one with just a syringe emoji and laughing faces. She blocked him immediately but showed me first. She was shaking when she handed me the phone. She asked, "Why does he hate me so much?" I don't know how to answer because I have no idea. I don't know how someone can hate another person so much when they've done nothing to them. And I don't know how a cousin can hate his cousin, their family, damn it. She's already a kid who has to live with the fear of her allergy, and now she has to deal with her own cousin harassing her like this. I saved all the screenshots and sent them to the family group chat where everyone's been arguing nonstop. I told them clearly, this isn't about a fight or a disagreement. My daughter is being harassed by someone who nearly killed her. If they want to defend him after this, they're dead to me too. Some went quiet after that. An uncle finally stepped in and told everyone to stop excusing behavior that could have killed a child. I appreciated that, but of course my brother blew up at him and accused him of believing my lies. My daughter's still dealing with the fallout. She barely sleeps. She doesn't trust anyone but me right now. She's paranoid about eating anywhere but home. She asked if her cousin would show up at school to hurt her. I wrote to her school counselor and explained what's going on. They promised to keep an eye out, but the fact that she even has to worry about this turns my stomach. We've filed a police report along with the screenshots where my nephew basically admits what he did. I know he thinks it's all hilarious that there are no consequences, but the evidence is there. And if that lands him in juvie, that's his fault, and his father's too. I've started looking into a restraining order. I know some will say what I'm doing is extreme, but so is what he's been doing. He's not a little kid with no understanding, he's 17. He knew what an EpiPen does, he knew my daughter could die without it, and he thought it was funny? Let him find it funny when the police come for him. We'll see how much he laughs and how many posts he makes. If the law can keep him away from her, I'll do it. Of course, as soon as my brother found out, he filled my voicemail with the same old song. I'm ruining his son's life, he's just a kid, I'll regret this when I calm down. No, I regret letting him stay in my house, and I regret having him as a brother. Regret pressing charges? Absolutely not. My brother could have done something decent, like apologize and discipline his son. But he's acting worse than a teenager, so he'll face the consequences too. It's like he thinks like his son, that it's all a game, that it's all justified for a laugh. Well, I'm not laughing and I'm not playing. As I see it, my brother raised a bully who thinks other people's lives are a joke. That's his fault, not mine, not my daughter's, not anyone's who refuses to play along with his victim act. If they wanted a safe place to live, maybe they shouldn't have messed with the people who gave it to them. So yes, right now my brother's busy crying online and trying to make me look like the bad guy. My nephew keeps harassing my daughter, even after nearly killing her, and the family's in chaos. I'm exhausted, but I'm not backing down. Update 3. About 2 weeks ago, my daughter had a reaction at school. Luckily, it wasn't as severe as the last one, but she had swelling and trouble breathing again. The school nurse administered her EpiPen and called me. She was okay but shaken up. At first, I thought it was cross-contamination in the cafeteria, but then I started hearing from some kids that my nephew was bragging. Apparently, he told a couple of people he swapped her snack once to teach her a lesson. Whether that's true this time or not, I don't even care anymore. The fact that he's boasting about it like it's a trophy makes me sick. I don't think he had access to her food, and the truth is probably simpler, cross-contamination. But the fact that he wants to take credit for it like it's a prize disgusts me. When I picked her up from school, she was pale, trembling, crying. She kept saying she didn't feel safe anywhere, not even with the food she prepares herself. That broke me. I've been holding it together for her, but hearing my own daughter say she can't trust her own lunch crushed me. I went straight to confront my brother. I told him everything I'd heard, what his son was saying. It took some effort to track him down, but I was furious. As usual, he played dumb, saying his son would never do that and that kids exaggerate. Meanwhile, his son was right there, smirking, not scared or remorseful, just smiling like it was all a joke. I lost it. I went right up to my nephew and slapped him hard, wiping that smirk off his face in an instant. I know some will say I'm violent or whatever. I don't care. It's what someone should have done sooner, what I should have done the day of the incident. This teenager seems to live by his own rules. Well, someone had to do something. My brother yelled that I had no right to touch his son and that he'd sue me. I told him his son could face serious legal consequences and that we'd sue for harassment too. I hadn't done it yet, but I'm working with a lawyer now. So far, my police report hasn't led to major consequences. They said since he's still a minor, it's mainly logged as harassment and a safety issue, but they opened a file. I don't know what'll come of it legally, but at least that record will help me get a restraining order for his son. As for his lawsuit, if he goes through with it, I don't care. I can handle that if it means that smug brat stops bothering my daughter. I can't just sit back and wait for the law to do something. My nephew goes to a different school than my daughter, thank God. But he's currently suspended. My brother lost the part-time job he had because someone in the family told his boss about the drama. He blames me for that too, even though I had nothing to do with it. My daughter started therapy because she can't sleep and lives in a state of anxiety about food. I don't want her to develop an eating disorder over this. She kind of already has, but I don't want it to get worse. Most days she eats in the nurse's office. It kills me to see her like this, but at least she's near someone who could save her life, which makes her feel safer. Our lawsuit will also include the psychological damage my nephew caused her. I'm exhausted, but I find the strength because I'm defending my daughter. I feel guilty for letting my brother and nephew into my house when they had nowhere to go. I gave them food, a roof, everything. And they repaid me by nearly killing my daughter and then mocking her. This has awakened a fierceness in me that will do whatever it takes. They were my family, but they've brought this out in me and they'll face the consequences. I'm sorry for them. Update 4. The police report didn't initially lead to anything major since my nephew is still a minor, but it wasn't entirely useless. They put it on his record and the school took it seriously. They added notes to his file and he was suspended for a while. After that, the school basically said he's on thin ice. If he does anything that even hints at harassment or endangering someone, it'll follow him to the next school and even to college applications. My brother didn't take it well. He was furious that I involved the police in family matters and hasn't spoken to me except for occasional nasty messages. He told everyone I ruined his life and his son's future. As if it's not his son's fault. They got kicked out of the place they were staying after me because, apparently, my nephew stole money from another kid in the house. After that, they've been bouncing from place to place, and the last I heard, they moved to another city to stay with distant relatives on my brother's ex's side. No one has many details because they've gone quiet, which honestly is fine by me. Though they can't leave the state easily, so they're only a few hundred miles away. As for my daughter, she's what matters in all this. She's in therapy now and it's helping. It's still not easy, which makes sense after going through something like choking and the harassment that followed, but she's doing okay. I can tell she often doesn't feel safe. That infuriates me because a teenager shouldn't have to live like that. She's just starting to regain her confidence, but it's a step in the right direction. The legal stuff is another matter. My nephew is 17, but in some cases he can be tried as an adult. From the investigation, that might be the case. No formal charges have been filed yet because they're still investigating, but at least something's happening. We've also got a court date for my lawsuit against him and his father, mainly for what he did but also for the harassment and psychological damage caused. It's clear we won't reach a settlement, so I hope this gets resolved in court. It feels like this will never end since there's still a long way to go, especially since we don't even know if my nephew will face criminal charges. But I'm staying optimistic. At least the geographic distance has calmed things down, though it's far from enough. I'll update when I have more to share on any of the important parts of my story. Update 5. Things are slowly starting to feel like justice and progress, rather than just being victims and having to endure it. My nephew is now facing charges for assault, endangering my daughter's life, and even attempted murder. We don't know how many of those charges will hold up in court in a couple of months, since everything has to be proven, but the fear he'll feel sitting in the defendant's seat will make him think twice before laughing it off. The assault and endangerment charges are the strongest, while the attempted murder charge is weaker. The prosecutor has talked to us about trying to prove he put something in her food to trigger the allergy and that hiding the EpiPen was an attempt to cause her death. Unfortunately, we can't prove that because he never talked about it. Maybe he's not guilty of that specifically, maybe he is, but it's hard to prove. My brother hasn't spoken to me about this or to anyone. He stopped writing to people about it. We have a restraining order against his son, and his lawyer might have advised him not to make things worse. The lawsuit we won against his son might also play a role. A judge reviewed the evidence of what my nephew did, the harassment, the mocking posts, and ruled he's liable for compensation, over $40,000, which they've agreed to pay in installments because they don't have the money. I don't know if my brother's found a new job, and I know my nephew hasn't finished school. So far, they've made only 2 payments. Next on our agenda is waiting for the court dates for my nephew's trial, who, by the way, just turned 18. Since the incident happened when he was a minor, he's still being tried as one, though the trial process is like an adult's, if that makes sense. The trial follows a special process because he was a minor at the time, even though he's not anymore. These are things I don't fully understand, but the prosecutor has tried to explain. The important thing is that there are consequences. There already were with the lawsuit, but the message needs to be clear for people like my nephew and brother to understand. Update 6. Last Friday my nephew's sentence was read, but I waited until Sunday morning today to sit down and write, letting things settle a bit. The trial, which lasted only a week, was exhausting. I testified, and my daughter, being a minor, did too, though differently. She didn't have to sit by the judge to give her statement. The verdict: my nephew will serve 3 years in prison to reflect on what he did. And my brother, while not going to prison, will have to live knowing he raised a criminal. My daughter wasn't present for the verdict reading. She didn't want to go, and I didn't think it was fair to make her be near her cousin. But I was there with some family members who supported me, and I couldn't help but cry. We've been through so much. My daughter's doing much better, not because of the trial's outcome, but thanks to months of work with a professional. She hasn't had another attack, which has made her less paranoid than before. She's still careful about what she eats, but not at the obsessive level she was before. I'm glad this is my last post, and I think it will be with a happy ending, not one about how my nephew or brother got off without consequences. Maybe my brother escaped legal consequences because his son was tried as an adult, so the responsibility fell solely on him. But he's lost his son and been shunned by many people. I don't see how this can be a good ending for him. For us, it is, and that's what matters, especially for my daughter. Edit: about the slap I gave my nephew, no charges were ever filed. I don't know why, and I don't care. I'd have picked up trash on the highway for weeks if that was the price for this outcome. It's better that nothing happened, but I wouldn't have minded. I don't regret it.